This is The Wheel Weaves, a Wheel of Time podcast with no spoilers. Welcome, listeners. This podcast is safe for first-time readers because it's made by me, a first-time reader. I'm your host, Dani, and I'm the one who's taken on the task of reading through this 15-book mega-series. I'm joined by my co-host, Brett, who's a longtime fan, and he's acting as my tour guide on this journey. Before we get into our episode today, we just want to thank all of our continued Patreon team members and everyone who has made a contribution for the month of July. We really appreciate your generosity and continued support. We also want to give a shout out and a big hello to everyone who's listening around the world in 41 different countries. This episode, we're going to be talking about Chapter 14, The Stag and Lion.
Yeah, I love this chapter. We get another dream sequence.
It was
so
hard for me to write notes on without just reciting word for word what was going on.
Yeah, but really fun information, and then we get a whole load of more information about history. So,
yes, it was interesting. I liked it.
Yeah, I love the history part of these novels.
I know you do. Yeah. So do you have a fun fact for us before we get going?
Yeah, I got a good fun fact for today, and it's pretty quick, so we'll speed it up a little bit here. So this fun fact is all about number of book copies sold.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we talked about word counts last time.
Right, and I have said before somewhere that this is one of the top-selling fantasy series.
Yeah, from what I understand and what I could find. So it's a little bit tricky to find exact numbers on number of copies sold.
Okay.
But from what I could find online, yeah, it's definitely one of the top. It's not the top, obviously, but it's definitely one of the higher end sellers for books.
Okay.
So, and I gave a couple comparisons too, just so you can kind of get that in your brain. So, for number of copies sold for The Wheel of Time, there have been over 90 million copies sold.
Is that of all the books together or just the first one?
The whole series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so all the books, over 90 million copies sold. And that's worldwide, from what I could find as well. It might be higher than that, but it's around that
Right, and
number.
I could see it would be difficult to actually compare.
Yeah.
Because if you have less books in your series, you have less copies to sell.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit tricky on that side.
Yeah.
The thing I found interesting is that typically for most series, North American sales typically equate to about half of the total number of sales.
Okay.
Yeah, so
just all around.
Yeah, just all across the board for most series I could find. The one to compare was A Song of Ice and Fire, so Game of Thrones. Now that actually has topped Wheel of Time around the same, but I believe from what I could find that they have beaten Wheel of Time for number of copies sold, but the show's done.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's revisit these numbers when the Wheel of Time show comes out.
That's kind of the big speculation right now is that, Wheel of Time's going to get a huge,
Yeah, and there's some mixed feelings on that. There are some people who love being part of just this kind of small, nerdy community.
Yeah, and now it's going to blow up, hopefully, so.
Well, yeah, you say hopefully. There are some people who are kind of upset about it.
Well, that's okay. They're welcome to be upset about it. I'm going to enjoy it, though.
Yeah, that's good. And we were actually having a conversation not too long ago about how when Game of Thrones came out, I hadn't even heard of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and we didn't start watching Game of Thrones until a couple seasons in. Yeah.
And then that's when I realized it was a book series, and that's when I got into it and read all the books.
Yeah.
After I found out about the show. So you can only imagine, if you extrapolate that.
Absolutely.
Now there's Game of Thrones fans who are going to be interested in the Wheel of Time show and then get into the books and realize it's a book series.
Yeah, and I think that we've had enough series that come from books or vice versa that most people can assume that the show is obviously not going to be identical to the book. Right? Because number one, that's impossible. But you just have to kind of get over that fact.
Yeah.
Right? So I do think that you're right about a lot of people who like the show are going to dive into the books because they're going to get a lot more information too.
Yes, exactly. So, and that's exactly what I found.
Yeah.
I actually like the books a lot better than I like the show.
Yeah, and that's why originally when we talked about, am I excited about the show? Yeah, because it's just more content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we love more Wheel of Time content.
Yeah, it's always good.
Yeah.
Now, just for comparison's sake, I obviously had to look at Harry Potter too.
Of course.
So Harry Potter, actually, it's kind of funny. I thought it had sold more, but Harry Potter sold about 500 million.
Okay.
So obviously, yeah, that's a lot, but it's only 500 million. So.
Oh, only. Okay.
I assume the TV show can help us get to that.
Yeah. Well, and also watching the Harry Potter movies doesn't inspire you to go run out and get the books.
That's
in the
true.
same way that
Yeah.
like Game of Thrones does.
Yeah, I would agree to that too.
All right. So I'm ready to delve right in.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so chapter 14, The Stag and Lion. Speaking of Game of Thrones, a little piece taken from here. I would assume this is a pretty obvious one. Stag and Lion. Those are like the two biggest houses in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So
Like
I would
that's kind of
assume
a big
that
comparison.
that was taken from this.
It's possible. I honestly don't know.
Oh.
Maybe.
Oh, it's okay.
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither.
I thought you meant like Wheel of Time took it from.
No.
That's what
it was
it
taken
sounded like.
from.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, so we get our picture, which is the dragon's fang.
Yeah.
Picture here, which is fitting because we're heading into a city where there are white cloaks about.
Yeah, and possibly dark friends.
Yes.
They're not supposed to be the same thing. White
Right.
cloaks are different than dark friends.
Yeah. All right.
Probably
so...
both dicks, but you know.
Well, they're not good. Neither seem to be very good. So we head into the inn here from the back as expected guests. So our squad has rolled into town and are given the royal treatment here.
Yeah.
So the innkeeper's name is Master Fitch.
Mm-hmm.
And the inn is very busy, near full, but he assures them that he will do his best for Mistress Alice and Master Andra.
Shuffle some people around in the rooms.
Yeah, and their friends too.
Yeah.
Though he eyes them quite curiously, especially Tom, who makes a weird traveling companion for this crew.
Yeah, it's like a ragtag bunch of country folk, and
and then a gleeman.
a gleeman, and then
Yes. Well, he knew that Maureen and Lan were heading down.
yeah,
And so coming back with some down country folk, like, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But then they've, like, picked up this stray gleeman also, so it's, like, kind of
yeah,
weird.
entertainment. You
Yeah.
know, it's good.
So Lan actually heads into the common room here, which is, like, loud with laughter and singing. And I actually think of, like, a pub in a hotel lobby
Yeah,
type of thing. Just with all, like, the hustle and bustle in there and joyful shouting and stuff. So that's what I'm reminded of.
yeah. The boys seem like they want to get involved, but
Yeah.
not before a bath.
Not before a bath, but
Yeah.
Lan is interested in finding out, like, news. Like, he's going to go in and socialize and
Yeah.
sort of get the word of other people for what's going on here.
Be his usual charming self.
Yeah, right. But I bet in this world he probably can be.
Probably.
Yeah. And the boys would prefer a bath first.
Yeah.
So Maureen asks Finch about the Children of the Light being in Baerlon and asks if there will be trouble. He says not to worry about it. They're just making up rumors that the Aes Sedai are in town. It's just a trick, though, to get them all into town.
Because there's no Aes Sedai here.
None. Never. No way. No how.
Yeah.
But the governor isn't falling for it.
Yeah.
And so they think, because they're only allowed in 10 at a time right now into the city. They have like a camp north of,
Yeah.
right? The Children of the Light. But if there's Aes Sedai in the city, maybe the governor will let them all in.
Yeah.
And they can do all their meddling around and stuff. But
Because the White Cloaks' mission is that Aes Sedai are evil, so
Right.
if they're allowed in, they can, like, stop the evil.
right. But it's not working.
No.
So Maureen then asks if someone named Min is still there because she wants to talk to her.
Yeah.
But we don't hear the answer because the attendants show up and take them to their baths.
Yeah.
So the women go one way and the men go another, and the guys follow someone named Ara. And Rand tries asking him, a bit about Baerlon and what's going on here. But the guy just says Rand has a funny accent.
Which is kind of funny because they're, like, really not that far away. They're, like, a week's journey away.
No, but realistically,
Yeah.
in different parts, like, people sound different.
Yeah.
So, like, I almost pictured, like, a southern accent.
For the Emmons Fielders?
Yeah, just because they're from the south, and
Okay.
like I just pictured like a different accent from like someone maybe a couple states north.
Yeah, it'll be
kind of
funny
thing.
if there's like a real portrayal of that. So
I really hope not. I would really not
like
that.
twangy. Or...
Yeah, like a Savannah accent kind of thing. But
yeah.
So they enter this grand sort of bathroom, and there's 12 copper tubs, and Perrin says it's almost as good as back home.
Yeah, he says it loyally.
Yeah, out of loyalty, and then Tom laughs, calling him a Coplin.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we brought a Coplin with us.
Well, Matt calls him a Coplin.
So after they're in their hot baths, Tom tells Ara to leave, and he'll get paid later. But he sort of hesitates, and he looks at the sword and the axe with, like, Rand and Perrin's belongings, and asks if there's trouble down country, too.
Yeah, and the whole hesitance there is a little bit telling.
Yeah, like he's been wanting to ask them, but he's waiting till he's, like, more alone kind of thing. It seems
or, like, if he should ask.
Yes, and so Rand says, oh, well, why do you ask? You know, why do you say two? Is there trouble here too? Is there trouble here as well? And I'm actually kind of impressed by Rand here.
He's trying to be a little bit, like, sneaky about
it. Good way to spin it back on him. Like, regular Rand would have just, like, answered the question. Yeah. And not thought about how he could get information from this guy instead.
Without, like, giving too much
away.
Yeah,
so he's, like, we're already seeing some growth in Rand over this past week.
Because we did get that warning from Moraine, like, hey, don't draw attention, don't talk about this stuff, like...
Exactly, and I just said, Moraine said not to mention Trollocs, so I thought for sure that he's mentioning Trollocs.
Yeah, which cues Matt.
Yeah, I know. But Perrin isn't really taking note. He's enjoying his bath, but Tom sits up to pay attention. And Ara sort of here stumbles about the miners getting into fights, but then he says, I meant, like, Gildan type trouble, but I guess not. Like, there's nothing but sheep down there anyway, no offense.
Yeah, strange winter.
Yes. But there is word of Trollocs up in Saldea.
Yeah, Saldea. Yeah.
And then Matt pipes in like an idiot. I thought Rand was going to be the one to spill everything, but I should have suspected Matt.
Yeah.
Turns out.
He, like, doesn't even get it.
He doesn't. And even...
Like, at all.
At all. And even when they're, like, trying to shut him up...
He still doesn't get it.
He does not get it. So he goes, let me tell you about Trollocs.
Yeah.
And Tom is really smart and fast here. And he says, oh, stop repeating my stories, boy, kind of thing. And then Perrin gets it right away and explains that, oh, Tom is a glee man. That's why there's stories about Trollocs.
Like, Tom, Perrin, and Rand know that they're supposed to be quiet, and, like, logically anybody should think.
Yeah.
Right? You're being chased by
even if
monsters.
Moraine didn't specifically say, don't mention Trollocs, Dark Friends, Murdral, the Dark One. She literally gives them a list of things they can't talk about.
Like, even if she didn't say that, you probably should figure out, don't talk about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but Matt is, like, genuinely confused, like an idiot, and says, like, what? No, not stories. Like, you guys, what are you talking about? And random parents start, sort of talking really fast, telling Matt that, he always screws up telling the stories, and he shouldn't even try. And then Ara's just staring at them, because this is a really strange interaction. And Matt is also staring at them like they've gone crazy, because he still doesn't get it.
And you know what? The whole weirdness of the conversation can probably, like, in Ara's mind, just be played off that they're a bunch of country bumpkins.
Yeah, a bunch of weirdos. Hopefully, hopefully. So just then, perfect timing for Lan to bang into the room and usher Ara out of there. And he turns to Matt and says, don't you listen to what you're told?
Yeah.
But he calls him Farmboy.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Sheepherder, Farmboy, Blacksmith.
Yeah, it's like the adventures of the three friends.
Yeah.
The adventures of Farmboy, Sheepherder, and Blacksmith.
Yeah, and Lan refuses to use names. I
don't know. He's funny that way. So Matt argues a bit again and says, I wasn't going to tell him anything, just about the Trollocs, nothing else.
Yeah.
And it's like, buddy, that's...
So I guess, like, he was just going to omit the Murdral, maybe? Like, what was he going to omit?
I don't know, or not, like... I think that he was going to omit fact that the Dark One wants them.
Hopefully he had enough.
I think that part, but he wanted to be like, oh, there's Trollocs, and let me tell you about this attack on our town. It was crazy. It was an adventure.
Just all around bad idea.
Moron. But also, this sort of makes me think, how good is Lan at listening? Like, he could hear this through the door. He knew exactly what was going on when he busted in, and he's like, don't you do what you're told? Like, he heard the whole thing.
Well, in my mind, because we kind of get the inside scoop later with Lan, like, he listens at the door for a while before he says, okay, it's safe. So, like, presumably he's outside the bath door listening to the conversation before he enters,
and
too.
And then he's like, oh my god, these guys are just morons.
Like, really? And then he busts in. So I kind of always assume Lan pays attention.
Yes, definitely. So Lan tells them here that the same rules apply that they already heard. Don't talk about anything. Attract no more attention than a mouse in a field, basically. And so Rand asks about the trouble here, and Lan says it's probably just the white cloaks. but Ara doesn't trust them enough to ask.
Yeah, and it's kind of that thing where Ara doesn't know if the boys like the White Cloaks, because, like, clearly mixed feelings about children.
Yeah.
Like, some people like them, some people don't. So
he was trying to just, like, feel them out.
Yeah, because you don't want to talk shit about the White Cloaks if you're going to go and rat you out, right?
Yeah, because then you'd be considered a dark friend.
Pretty much, yeah.
So Moraine wants to get them to Tar Valon alive, and Lan will do it if he can, but watch out if you bring any harm to her.
Yeah, I wrote down Safety Officer Lan is losing his cool pretty bad right now.
A little bit.
Yeah, because we get a very blatant threat. Like,
yeah. If you fuck this up, you're gone.
Yeah.
Goners. So they bathe here in silence after that, because that's pretty awkward. He just threatened them with death, basically. And then they find Moraine in the hallway when they're done.
Yeah.
And so she's standing with a girl with short hair and wearing like a men's outfit. Like
it kind of looks like a boy from Rand's Thoughts.
Yeah, but he thinks it's a girl, but he's not too sure.
Yeah.
And I wrote, I bet this is that Min.
Okay.
So she wanted to talk to Min, and now she's with
standing with a girl. Yeah.
This person. So
it's a good assumption.
Yeah, but this quote girl hurries away, and then Moraine leads them to their dining room where Egwene is waiting.
So very just like end of the hall, spot her, and she's gone.
So Rand thinks about how it's not Egwene's fault, for all of this, and the touching of the true source would have happened to her either way, and so he sort of wants to apologize that he realizes, like, oh, she didn't go try finding this was going to happen to her anyway.
Clearly this line of thought, like, this isn't a good line of thought he's going down either.
No.
Like, at all.
Well, no, because it's not like I accept that she wants to do this for her.
Yeah.
It's none of that. It's like,
yeah, she can't help it.
She can't help it, so I feel bad for her.
Yeah, Egwene wants
She's
this.
still Egwene, deep down. Like, she looks the same after all of this craziness. She's still here from Emmonsfield, and
because if he goes in trying to apologize by saying, "Hey, I know it's not your fault," this is not going to
go well.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have that sort of insight.
No. But he doesn't actually get the chance to apologize because she kind of like stiffens her back at him.
Oh, yeah. She doesn't give him the time of day at all. So he thinks, fine, let her be that way then.
It's the Two Rivers stubbornness, right?
Yeah, there you go. So some more insight into the relationship that Moraine creates with people. So this innkeeper is treating her basically like royalty. He's embarrassed that his food isn't good enough for her. And he rambles a lot, and finally catches himself and leaves. So I find it interesting because this food actually sounds really good. It's like roast chicken and all this stuff, which is miles better than how they've eaten
what they've been eating
for the past whatever. And he's just like, oh, I wish it could be better.
Yeah.
The winter was bad. We don't know when the farmers are going to harvest next.
Yeah, because we're on the tail end of like a extended winter, so the stores are running out.
Right, and so he's kind of embarrassed by it.
And we get another mention of wolves. Wolves getting the mutton and the beef that should go on people's plates.
Right, which may or may not be wolves.
Yeah, it's a little offhanded, but we don't really know. But we've gotten lots of mentions about wolves and them, eating things and all that. So
yeah. So Lan waits at the door here listening before telling them that it's safe to talk. So basically, don't trust anyone is the message.
Yeah.
And as they're eating, Moraine asks Lan what he heard in the common room. So it turns out there was a battle in Gildan, and someone named Logain, is that how I say that?
Yeah, Logain.
Was the victor. And so Rand assumes here that Logain is the false dragon, and notes that Lan speaks as though he knows him.
Yeah, he's speaking familiarly about him.
Like he mentions about, the victor was Logain.
Yeah, like it sounds like they've been tracking this battle before they got to the Two Rivers, and maybe that's why.
Maybe.
Like, it's hard to imagine that they've crossed paths necessarily.
Is it hard for you to imagine that? Because it's not hard for me to imagine that an Aes Sedai and a warder have crossed paths with someone who might not necessarily be...
Oh.
Like, you think that... I don't know. I just don't think that they're sitting up in Tar Valon doing nothing. I think they've come across a lot of things and seen a lot of things and heard a lot of things and done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's not hard for me to imagine at all that they know this guy.
Well, to travel that... In my mind, it was hard to believe. Like, I just personally never thought that they knew each other, like...
Personally.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's personally, but this guy who went to Gildan, I don't know where he's from.
That's true. We
right?
don't know where
they
he's
could have crossed paths anywhere.
Okay.
It seems that you can sort of travel anywhere here in this country. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't see why not. I don't know why it would be out of the realm of possibilities.
Okay.
Because...
Do you want to make a...
No.
A hard statement and say...
No.
Are they best friends or just like sort of best friends?
My instinct here says because Rand assumes that this is the false dragon and Lan knows him, that it's wrong.
Okay.
Because everything Rand
Thinks
assumes
is wrong.
But
Okay.
I don't think that's a very good stance to take because one day he's going to be right about something, probably by accident. But no, I just don't think we can say
You
for
can rule
sure
out.
he
Okay.
doesn't because I think it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Okay. They got to pick your brain here, so yeah.
That's okay. So Moraine asks about the Aes Sedai because we did hear a little bit from the gatekeeper that like they're all dead basically.
Yeah, and we'd heard from Pat and Fane that there's Aes Sedai heading down.
Right.
So that's all done and over.
Yeah. So Lan sort of shakes his head and says there's no reliable information. There are too many stories here. Either they all died, or
none of them
died, or they all went to Logain's side
Yeah.
to, turn to the dark side.
Yeah.
So there's, nothing reliable.
The only thing that they agree on is that Logain won.
Logain won, and that I went there.
Yeah.
But what happened to them,
Who knows?
We don't know yet. But there is more good news for our crew because there is no sign of the Myrddraal or Trollocs, and the White Cloaks are sort of terrorizing the governor, so our squad isn't likely to be noticed.
Yeah, I highlighted the line, they will not even notice us unless we advertise ourselves. So in my mind, it's like, oh
shit.
yeah. Because if you say that, that means that they're for sure going to advertise themselves.
Man.
So.
Well, especially with Matt the moron.
Yeah, every time we get like a sentence that's a hard statement like that.
Yeah. But they also have been threatened.
Yeah.
So they better be holding their tongue.
But Moraine already threatened them. Like, they've gotten direct threats from Moraine and Lan now.
They've gotten a threat from Moraine saying, don't go adventuring by yourself.
Because if you get taken, I'll destroy you.
Make sure you're dead.
Yeah.
But this was more specific, like, don't put Moraine in any danger.
In
jeopardy. And Moraine needs you to not say anything, so if you do say anything, then basically that's it for you.
Yeah.
So this is a more direct, while we're here, if you say anything...
Yeah. Quit it.
Goner. Yeah. So Moraine says that they will stay here for the next 2 nights and then leave because, they got to have a little bit of a rest and they have a hard journey ahead of them and it's a relatively nice, safe place to be.
And it's their first time in a city.
Yeah, it's really exciting. But Lan is really hesitant. And he agrees if everyone can remember what they're told for a change.
Yeah, considering they messed up in the bathhouse. Like,
yeah, as soon as they got there. Like, the first people they were allowed to talk to alone.
Yeah, literally the first guy. The first guy.
Literally.
Yeah.
So, maybe they've been warned. I don't know. So, they split up into their rooms. So, Moraine and Egwene take a room. And there's only 2 other rooms.
Yeah.
So Rand, Tom, and Lan are sharing a room, and Matt and Perrin get a room to themselves.
Kind of an odd mix.
Really, really odd.
Yeah.
I was, annoyed for Rand here. I remember, when you're at,
Why wouldn't your 3 boys bunk together?
Yeah, when you're at camp, and you're getting sort of, your cabin assignments, and you're just, hoping that you get to be with your friends, but instead you have to, go with a teacher.
Yeah, that'd be the worst.
That's what this seems like to me. This is so annoying.
So do you have any thoughts on why it happened that way?
Oh, well, as a teacher, I know for sure you have to split people up for a reason. So
they literally got split up intentionally?
I think so. I don't think anything here is done for no reason. I think that Lan wants to keep an eye on Tom.
Okay.
That's why Lan
he doesn't
and Tom
trust him.
are together. Yeah, so basically just keeping an eye on him so that they know where he is. Keeping tabs on him a little bit.
Okay.
And then Matt and Perrin get to share a room, but I don't know why Rand can't be with them.
It could have been just a random one of the boys stays, right?
Could have been.
Could have been.
I doubt it, though. So, anyway, so they go up in the room. We don't hear about what Matt and Perrin get up to, if they go down to the common room or not. But Tom unpacks his flute and harp, and he's on his way to the common room. He's going to tell his stories, and he's going to do his Glee Man thing, since he never really got to at Beltane anyway. But Lan goes with him, and Rand thinks to himself, I've been listening to all his stories for the last week.
So I've got my fill.
I'll see him tomorrow. I'm just going to go to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice to get a first-hand experience of all the Gleeman's tales.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he just like sort of notes to himself how funny it is that like a week ago it was the best thing that had ever happened to him in his whole life to see a Gleeman perform, and now he's like passing it up to go to bed early. So that's kind of funny.
It is funny. Before we bust into this dream sequence,
Yep.
I want to back up one page and just point out one really interesting thought here.
Okay, I missed something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something I just want to bring up here. So right after they get into their private dining hall and they send Master Fitch away,
Yes.
Lan does his little acting casual, slouching against the wall, like he acts like he's not paying attention. And then as soon as Master Fitch leaves, he bounds to the door and does his whole listen thing.
Right.
So the first point is just the fact that kind of adds to my point that Lan always knows what's going on.
Yes.
He just plays it off as he's lazy or does not paying attention. Second point is that him listening for like a slow count of 30, so that's like a long time, and then poking his head out to check if anybody's looking, prompts Egwene to ask, hey, I know you said not to trust anyone, but like, should we really not be trusting the innkeeper here? And
he seems nice.
yeah, if I mean, if you don't trust him, why are we staying here? So that gives Lan to reply a really interesting sentence. He says, I suspect him no more than anyone else, but then until we reach Tarvalon, I suspect everyone. There, I suspect only half.
Right, and Rand thinks it's a joke.
He thinks it's a joke. Lan is not joking.
No.
Well, it doesn't sound that way, and Morin does this whole, like, he's exaggerating thing, but Lan not trusting anyone, and then in Tarvalon, where they're presumably safe, he only trusts, like, half of people, if that.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on, like, is Tarvalon actually somewhere that's going to be safe, or is it just Lan being safety officer number one?
I think Lan's being safety officer, but I think that there will definitely be things in Tarvalon to be wary of.
Okay.
Like shifty people.
Okay.
In terms of that. I know that they'll be safe in terms of Trollocs and the Dark One.
Just like other forms of not safe.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. But like, I don't think right now when he checks at the door, he's checking if Trollocs have invaded.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what he's checking for. He's
He
checking
just doesn't
for...
want to be overheard.
He doesn't want to be overheard. So he's just not trusting if people hear him, because things that they say, he doesn't want them to get out.
Fair. Okay.
So I think they'll be safe in terms of the Dark One in Tarvalon, because there are so many Aes Sedai there who oppose the Dark One.
It's just going to be a different... Yeah.
It's just, there are still people to be wary of.
Yeah, Moraine said, Aes Sedai are still just people.
Yes.
Right? And then Lan always has that Lanism where he says, care and a long life go together.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Okay.
That.
Yeah, I just want to... It was kind of a funny way for Lan to say, like, hey, I don't trust anybody ever.
Yes. So, cue dream sequence.
Yeah, dream sequence.
So Rand falls asleep here with a full belly, so we can't even blame this on an empty stomach.
Yeah, apparently not.
So Rand is in a dim stone hallway, and he knows that this isn't the inn. So his head is really hurting, and he can't really think straight, and he's very thirsty and can't really figure out why. So he hears water dripping in the distance, and he decides to go to it. But after a long time, he can't find it. So he notices that there are all these doors down this hallway. So he opens one and goes into it.
Yeah, you know what? This hallway, it does remind me of like a hotel, though.
A little bit.
It's like a long hallway. Doors are on both sides every, interval. Like, it does kind of feel or look like what I would call an inn or a hotel. Or
yeah, maybe something like that. Except that it's kind of weird and dim.
And spooky and water dripping.
Dank is a word used to describe this. So.
I've stayed in some not so good motels. So,
something like that.
Actually pretty accurate. So
with like the flickering light.
Yeah.
The
dripping faucets.
The murder hotel.
Yeah.
Murder motel. So he goes into it, and there's a balcony in this room. And out the balcony, he sees like a very different sky. Sort of like an impossible sky, he says, with like oranges and reds and weird clouds. And then he notes that the room is also quite weird too. So he says that the flames in the fireplace don't really give off any heat, and it looks like people's faces are writhing in them and screaming silently.
Yeah, like when he looks at it out of his peripherals, he gets that weird, yeah.
So suddenly a man is standing in front of the fireplace, and Rand thinks that this is a good-looking dude.
Yeah.
There's an interesting note for him there.
A little bit.
So the man speaks to him and says, Once again, we meet face to face. So right away, I think this might be like Elan.
Okay.
At sort of like a Luz Theron Elan type meeting.
He also does his whole appear in dark clothes.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Okay.
So Rand screams and tries to run away, but he finds himself back in the same room, and the guy's there again too. So he says, "You cannot get away from me that easy," and this sort of reminds me of his other dream. Yeah. With the White Tower popping up whichever way he goes. You know,
in that dream, he did have a figure looming over him as well.
A little bit, and a voice sort of talking to him.
Yeah, and we talked about that, but he couldn't exactly look at that figure.
Right.
He couldn't, recognize it.
But it was a face he knew that he didn't want to remember.
Yeah.
So, similarities.
Yeah, because also in this description, we have that this man, his mouth and eyes became openings into endless caverns of flame.
Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah.
But the room is in front of him again when he tries to leave again. So just like wherever he goes, this room is there and he can't avoid it. So Rand, at this point, kind of has enough sense to realize that this is a dream.
Yeah.
And he says, "This is a dream. I should be able to wake up." But he can't. And the man says, "Is it a dream? Doesn't matter."
Now that's a good point.
And that's really interesting because if this guy can sort of access him in his subconscious...
Like get into his dream?
Yeah, does it matter where it is I confront you?
So do you think that this is a dream?
Well, yes, I think it's a dream. I don't know what else it could be. Nothing else really makes sense to me. Obviously this is Rand's subconscious, and it's just whether or not it matters whether or not this confrontation happens in a dream or in real life or elsewhere. This part I just have no context.
Yeah, that's fair.
No good answer for you.
Okay.
So Rand here tries to leave the room again, but this time the door's locked, and now there is a goblet of wine on a table in front of him, and this dude knows that Rand is thirsty, but offers it to him. And Rand goes to drink it and stops before he does, noticing how much this guy wants him to drink it. And this kind of pisses the guy off.
Yeah.
It irritates him, and Rand wonders what's in the wine. But then he thinks, well, that's stupid because it's a dream.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is the second time that Rand is using his anger to, fight the feelings that are coming towards him. In the first dream sequence, Rand specifically felt anger, which helped him oppose this.
Right, when the mountain was trying to push him around.
Yeah, and he's like, not today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he used that anger, and here he's using the same anger.
Yes. But he says, this is just a dream. Obviously, even if there was, quote, poison in the wine or something,
yeah,
I would drink it, and it's just a dream, so it wouldn't matter. But then if it is just a dream, why can't I wake up? So Rand asks this guy what he wants and who he is, and this guy says, "Call me Baerlon."
Yeah, so Rand asks in a very specific manner, "What do you want?" He demands, "Who are you?"
Yeah. And
this is the second time in this book we've gotten that exact phrasing.
Okay, where was the other one?
The first time was in the prologue.
Oh.
Yeah, so from the prologue it says...
When Luz Theron is all confused.
Yeah, it says, "For a moment, Luz Theron stared at his raised hand, fascinated by the patterns of grime. Then he wiped his hand on his even dirtier coat and turned his attention back to the other man. Who are you? What do you want?"
That is interesting.
Exact same phrasing.
Well, yeah, and then Rand thinks, oh shit, it's the Dark One.
Yeah, so Baerlon is the...
Father of Lies?
Yeah, so that's the ancient name for the Father of Lies or the Dark One. And that's, the second time we've got reference to this name.
Yes.
Is when Moiraine was telling the story about Manetheren.
Yes.
When that big...
Right.
Yeah, when the host of, bad guys were marching on Manetheren, they were flying the banner of Baerlon. So Heart of the Dark, ancient name for Father of Lies, but she also says that it couldn't actually be the Dark One because if the Dark One was actually free, we're all doomed anyways.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty clear distinction between Baerlon and the Dark One, even though it's one and the same.
Right. But yeah, so he tries to get away again, but the door is still locked. And this Baerlon, I can't even say it. This guy says, "Are you the one? You cannot hide from me. I know you down to your smallest hair."
And that's really interesting when he's saying, "Are you the one?" Because in last page, when Rand looks in the mirror, his image is blurred out.
Oh yeah, he can't really see himself.
Yeah, everything else is clear, but not his image.
Right. And I think that this is kind of implying that they are entwined in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hence the "we meet again"
Yep.
line. So this guy asks Rand what he is expecting. Does he want glory or power? Or did they tell you that the eye of the world would serve you?
And we got the name of the book.
Woo! I said, oh, this must be a big deal.
Yeah.
So do you have anything for us about what the eye of the world is?
I have absolutely nothing for you. There is no glossary definition. We only get the title of the book.
Okay.
That means it's extra important.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Oh,
They don't want you to know.
They don't want us to know. And you also don't want me to know.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so obviously this guy's like, what are you doing? Why are you sort of standing up to me? Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
What do you want? What have they promised you?
And the they is...
Aes Sedai?
That's what it seems, because he says the White Tower.
Yeah.
Your father was chosen by the White Tower.
Right. And so he goes on to say things about his father and his mother being chosen for something.
Yeah, well, presumably to have him.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
That's the only thing that would really make sense in this point.
Right, and so, but this pisses Rand off. Like, he doesn't like his parents being talked bad about, so he defends them, saying that they're good people.
Yeah. Now, we do know that his father, who Rand thinks is his father...
has some background.
And
has
may
a
not
history.
be his actual father.
Oh, well, probably not his actual father.
Yeah.
But is he implying the person who, the people who gave birth to him?
Exactly.
Or is he implying the people who raised him?
Exactly.
Yeah. I had a funny thought here about how there's just like this random baby in the middle of a battle scene.
Yeah.
And like where he comes from and stuff. And so you know how Anakin Skywalker is born like of the Force?
It's like the Virgin Mary story.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like there is no father, I was just pregnant. And he's basically born out of like midichlorians, right?
Yeah.
So
Are you kind of getting that vibe?
I kind of had like a fleeting thought about how Rand might have been sort of just like conceived of the like
of the one power,
true power or something so weird like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I was thinking, how does a baby just get sort of born and left on a mountainside?
Well, in that flashback, there was a woman.
Yeah. Well, Anakin has a mother.
That's
like,
true.
There would
okay,
have to be a mother to carry him.
Yeah.
But
okay,
maybe she died in childbirth or something. And now there's just this
interesting.
Like, where's the actual father? And then in if there is no father, then this.
So
like,
are you calling Rand Jesus, or are you calling him Anakin Skywalker?
Anakin Skywalker. I would never call anyone.
That's good.
That's not my style.
Okay.
My style is Anakin.
That's fair.
So.
I like that.
Yeah, thanks.
So, anyways, back to it. So, yeah, I mean, presumably Baerlon could be talking about one, Rand could be talking about the other, but we also really don't know because Baerlon doesn't actually necessarily know who Rand is.
Right. He's even asking, like, are you the one?
Are you the one?
Like, what do you want? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he says something here about being used by the Amyrlin seat.
Yes.
Like others, and Logain is being used.
Yeah, so this is a really important part because we get a bunch of names. So we get Davian, Urian Stonebow, Guer Amalasan, Raolin Darkspane, and just like Logain is being used.
Right, so they're all being used, basically used until they're consumed.
Yeah, and we know that Logain is a presumably false dragon.
Yeah.
So we can kind of connect the dots on possibly who these other people are.
Okay, so other false dragons.
Possibly.
And why are they being used by the Aes Sedai?
Yeah, by the Amyrlin seat, by the Aes Sedai.
So that's just like sort of this weird thing. And before we can get any clarity on any of this, Rand can't have a clear thought to save his life.
Yes.
His head hurts so much and he can't think straight.
They've referenced it a few times that his head hurts a lot.
Yeah. And I remember thinking when Luce Theron, his head hurt and I thought he had a concussion.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was, like, rocked in his head, and he had some sort of concussion.
You were kind of not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you were pretty close.
Yeah, but... So, yeah, he doesn't have a clear thought, and we get no clarity on what this guy's talking about. And so all he can get out is that this guy should be bound by the Creator until the end of time.
Yeah, him and all the Forsaken.
Yes, of course. And back and forth here about how stupid Rand is, like a beetle under a rock who knows nothing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true, because the Rand we know right now, like, he lives under a sheltered Two Rivers rock.
He's a farmer. He's a sheepherder.
Yeah, like, he literally lives under a Two Rivers rock.
Yeah.
So...
Baelzamon's just being mean.
Yeah, he's a mean guy.
Yeah, just like
he's
making fun of him here.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a monologue here.
Yes.
That Baerlon goes...
Do you want me to summarize the monologue?
Yeah, I'd like you to unpack this for us.
First thing that we come through is him saying, "Fool, I have never been bound." So that's an important note here. And again, we don't know if we're talking about the Dark One or if we're talking about, the figure or the man.
I think we're talking about this man. I think that you have said enough that if the Dark One was actually free, we'd all kind of be doomed.
Yeah.
And this guy is, although a little bit one and the same, isn't actually
maybe not
the
exactly
Dark
the
One.
Dark One.
So the Dark One should be bound and probably is still. And this guy does his bidding and stuff.
Yeah,
remember
like
when
the conduit for the power of...
Right. So if we're considering that this guy is Elon, because it's kind of alluded to that, it's a similar interaction. And
both like the monologue. Yeah,
they do, actually. So if it is Elon, then I would say it's probably like he's the one who says the Dark One's name, the Shaitan.
Yeah.
And stuff. And then Luz says, "Don't say that. That name's bad." And he goes, "Maybe for you."
Yeah.
So it's like there's a clear distinction that he isn't the Dark One.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense. So, just to summarize, he starts by saying, "I stood at Luz Theron Kinslayer's shoulder when he did the deed that named him Kinslayer.
Yes.
It was I who told him to kill his wife and his children and all his blood and every living person who loved him or who he loved." So, this is the interesting first point here, because we got to see the glimpse of the prologue.
Yeah.
When Elon showed up after Luz Theron had killed everybody, Elon was surprised.
Oh.
And he said, "Has the madness already, taken you this far?" So what I was thinking is this guy didn't actually tell Luz Theron to kill people, to kill everyone. And the first thing he opens with is a lie. And we know that Baerlon is a name for the father of lies. So everything that he's saying doesn't have to necessarily be a true statement.
Oh, I guess so.
That's the big thing, is that we should kind of take it with a grain of salt, everything that this guy is spouting off here. It's not necessarily all truth. So he starts with what is presumably not the truth.
Right. Or the other thing you could take from that is that this guy isn't Elon. And
or
maybe
it's not.
It's not Elon and it's someone else. Or
who told Luz Theron to kill
Right, or it's
everyone.
actually the Dark One or whatever, right? Or
so
another
that's
Forsaken or whatever that means. So, because that's what I originally thought, and then you said, no, it's a lie. So, I don't know what to think now.
Well, from what we see, right? And that's the whole thing as the reader. We got to see the prologue and kind of get to, think about what actually happened there. Rand's got no idea, so he's just taking this as full truth.
Right, okay.
Then he goes into a little bit of boasting, right? "I'm better than you. You could have fought me, but you didn't, and I would have won anyways." And then we get into a little bit of history.
Yeah.
Now, we did a bonus episode to kind of break down a lot of this history.
Yes.
So I'm not going to go 100% into detail with that. But we know that the major events that occurred are the breaking at 3,000 years ago. At 2,000 years ago, we have the Trolloc Wars.
Yeah.
At 1,000 years ago, we have Arthur Hawkwing's empire collapsing.
Okay.
And there's more information in the glossary about that.
Yeah.
But then now we have present day is Rand's time. So he starts boasting that 1,000 years later, so after Luz Theron killed everybody during the Trolloc Wars, he was the one who sent the Trollocs south. And then they ravaged the world for 300 years. And then he also goes on to boast that the Second Covenant, the Covenant of the 10 Nations, which was basically the 10 nations that were alive after the breaking, banding together. Manetheren was one of those, so we got to see that. He shattered those. Anyone who opposed him. And then he goes on to boast that 1,000 years later at Arthur Hawkwing's empire, that he was the one who whispered in Arthur Hawkwing's ear, and pretty much Aes Sedai all across the land died. Presumably because Arthur Hawkwing wasn't a fan of Aes Sedai due to what this guy was saying. And then he also talks about how he was the one who made Arthur Hawkwing send his armies across the ocean and sealed 2 dooms. 1 doom in this land, which was the breaking up of his empire, and then a doom yet to come. So he just goes into a whole bunch of history about, hey, I've never been bound because I've been the one who's been coordinating events for 3,000 years. So how could I be bound if I was doing these
or
things?
he's just lying and taking credit for things
or he's lying and taking credit for it, right? Because there's no one here to really say you're lying, right? So it's really interesting that he's doing all this boasting, but he also has a large insight into what actually might have happened.
What actually did happen, yeah.
And again, what we think happened from glossary definitions. Now, monologue sort of over, right? He ends up saying, you have two options. You're either going to serve me, or you're going to serve the Aes Sedai until you die, and then after you die, you're mine anyways, because the dead belong to me. And we did hear in the prologue again that promise that, hey, you can have your wife back, Lews Therin, if you just turn to the dark side, because I can bring her back.
Right.
And Lews Therin says no.
Yeah, and then he says, do you think you're safe from me in your dreams?
Look.
Yeah, clearly not. And then he forces Rand to watch him kill a rat.
This is like super Harry Potter curse style.
Oh, Crucio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like making it like...
Yeah, bend and twist and then back break. Yeah, it is kind of like that. And I just said, this guy's like a weird psychopath. Just killing this rat for the sake of like, look what I can do.
Yeah.
I can kill things. And so he says that Rand can go tell the Aes Sedai what he's seen in this dream and see how they take it.
Yeah.
How will they like it? Will they let you live?
Yeah.
Once they know that I can, get you in your dreams.
Yeah. And that comes back to the whole, is he lying about this too? Right? Who knows what the Aes Sedai are going to do? Yeah. He's like, the best way to make someone not do something is make them afraid to do it.
Yeah,
because
that's
of the consequences.
Fair. Yep.
So.
Yep. So, but then at that point, Rand wakes up. And he can't blame this one on an empty stomach, I said. Yeah. But he thinks about how Moiraine said that she can help him with his bad dreams. Yeah. Which is interesting because last time this happened, he didn't even consider that. But this time he's like, oh, like I can't blame this on anything. Yeah. This is just a weird, crazy dream that seems super real. And I remember she said, I can help you with your nightmares. Yeah. So maybe he should ask her for some help, but he goes sort of back and forth about whether these dreams are bad enough really to ask an Aes Sedai for help. Yeah. And
he was really loaded with, like, maybe misinformation about Aes Sedai, about the Amyrlin seat using him, and Aes Sedai using him and killing him. So it's a lot of plugs to make him not talk to Moiraine out of fear.
Yeah. And it's like, maybe misinformation.
Maybe, and we don't know.
Right? That's possibly the thing. So he wrestles with this idea and he can't really fall back asleep again. And that's actually the end of this chapter. And I'm just left wondering, like, I'm torn about what he should do.
Like, if he should talk to Moiraine?
Because originally I'm like, yeah, definitely go talk to Moiraine. She's opposes the Dark One no matter what. But maybe that's bad. And so it seems that this dark guy wants him to tell her about the dream. Yeah. He said, go tell her. Yeah. And that's what he wants. So then is it bad news if he does? Like, my gut instinct, like, I like Moiraine at this point, and I think that she's sort of like a misunderstood lady, and I like her, and I think he should go to her and tell her. I want her to know about this, because I want to see what's going to happen once she finds out. But then, at the same time, is that just giving the Bialzamon guy what he wants?
Yeah, and it's hard to say, because, like, who knows what the right action is? If you were Rand in this situation, right, you have to kind of look out for your best interest, which might not be telling her. Or maybe, like, who knows?
Or maybe they are, because he's kind of sick of these dreams, and he sort of learned his lesson about not telling her everything. Yeah. Bad things happen when he didn't tell her everything all at once, like, when they happened. Yeah. Like, with seeing the Cloaked Rider and things like that, right?
And it's kind of like that indecision is a big thing that he kind of goes to, is that he can't decide, so he does nothing.
Yeah, that's the default for Rand.
I am 100% exactly like him.
Yeah.
If I can't decide, then I just do nothing. Yeah. It's not a good trait to have.
No, it's not. It's actually one of your worst.
But I can really relate to Rand by, like, having all these, indecisive, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to wait.
Yeah, and then that's typically not the best.
Definitely not.
No. But anyways, how are you feeling about moving on here?
I like dream sequences. I like to break them down. I feel like this chapter should have been called Choices, because he has such a big choice to make. He has a big choice
to make, and this one's all his own.
Yeah. The last chapter was Choices because he doesn't have a choice, but yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I am excited for the next chapters because he wakes up and they have a day in Baerlon.
Right.
Yeah, because they're not leaving until tomorrow morning.
Right, and should we be concerned about these country folks?
So who's gonna mess up? Do you think it's gonna be Matt? Do you think it's gonna be Rand, Perrin?
Well, I think that Matt still isn't 100% aware.
He doesn't get it.
He still doesn't really get it. So if I'm putting money down, it's him.
It's Matt who's gonna
spill the beans. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard because the next chapter I think is called Friends and Strangers or something.
Yeah, Strangers and Friends.
Strangers and Friends.
And we have a new image So we'll talk about that next time.
Ooh, okay. Well, I look forward to that. I actually didn't want to stop reading, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go read. I'm excited that we got to record this the same day that I read the chapters.
Yes.
That doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to go on and read the next one.
Awesome. Okay.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Wheel Weaves. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to us and does actually make a really big difference. Tell your friends or anyone who might like us or anyone who's thinking of getting into the series who might want to follow along with us. You can find us on social media. There's more information on there and some fun pictures and tidbits on Instagram at The Wheel Weaves Podcast or on Twitter at The Wheel Weaves Podcast. If you'd like bonus content, exclusive insider looks, and to support us making great content, you can find us on patreon.com/thewheelweavespodcast. Thanks, as always, to audionautics.com for the music, and thanks to you, awesome listeners.